Hey guys, welcome back and thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you're new here and you enjoy this content, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps me out and I really truly appreciate it. It gets me motivated to do these sort of videos. What I wanted to run through today is commercial cane pruning and what we do to reach our objectives in terms of yields that are required to make the amount of wine that we are required to make for the season. The best way to have complete control over the total number of bunches and buds and canes that you're going to have is to cane prune. And you can determine exactly how many are there straight off the bat rather than spur pruning and have to go back through and thin the yields out and remove a lot of the new shoots when it comes to spur pruning. So I have a diagram behind me of an unpruned vine, and I also have a diagram of a pruned vine that shows the end result. So we'll go through exactly what that is, what the vine looks like initially. Determining the parts of the vine is also quite important. So here we have the parts of the vine. You've got the root system down below the ground, as you can see. Then you've got your trunk, which goes directly up. The area just below the fruiting wire, which is the wire that your cordon's attached to. When you have a commercial type setup, you'll have a fruiting wire and then you'll have foliage wires which support these canes that have grown and help them to grow straight. So your fruiting wire is the only really important one this time of the season. You have your trunk, you've got your crown, which is the area, it's normally quite knotty, it's just below the fruiting wire. Now what you want to achieve is to have your new growth, next year's cordons, to come from the centre crown area. So one tending to go left, one tending to go right. It makes the tying down process easier and there's less chance of those canes breaking once they're wrapped onto the wire. You'll also want a replacement spur in this area to bring everything back to centre every season. Because if you don't do this, what tends to happen is you'll grow and outwards and you'll end up overlapping the vine next to you, which is never good. That overlap creates density, which you don't want in a spraying situation. Later on in the year, to keep them disease free, you want good airflow and the ability to be able to put spray into the canopy and punch through to the other side. If you have another vine beside it overlapping, it tends to create too much of a block for the spray to actually penetrate down into where the fruit is. This is a diagram, just a brief diagram of a cordon which runs along here. So this is a close-up picture of the end. You've got the base of bud right down the bottom. It's almost attached to the cordon in every case. This one we don't count. We start from the next one up when we're determining bud numbers, because this one tends not to break. You'll find that a lot of them don't break in the season for various reasons. It could be bud mite, it could be mechanical damage, it could be just that there's no life in that tissue. But we'll start counting from here. In a commercial situation, 10's a good number to keep. Normally you'll produce, as long as your vine density is correct, you'll achieve about 10 tonnes per year, per hectare per year. If you've got the 10 bud scenario, you may need to add more or less. It depends on the vigour of the site, what variety it is. But say if your average French variety like a Pinot or a Pinot Noir, then 10 buds is adequate to create 10 tonne of fruit per hectare. Most of the time, not all the time, depending on soil. But here, certainly 10 buds equals roughly 10 tonne. So we count from not the base of bud but the next one up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Keep counting until you reach 10. Then you go to the 11th bud, which is the next one up, and you cut directly through that bud. The reason for this is that the bud here has a natural seal through the middle of it. Alright guys, so I'm going to prune this one. The important thing to remember is safety glasses are a must when you're dealing with canes, because they're quite pointy and they can take your eye out quite easily. This particular block has been pruned to 4 cordons to control vigour in the past. This site was just too vigorous. But what I'm going to do with this one is cut it back to 2 for the demonstration and show you how I will choose 2 central canes and lay those guys down, and also a replacement spur. So straight off the bat, the first thing I do is look for the stronger canes, and here the stronger ones in the middle, these guys, and these ones are starting to drift off a little bit to the edge. So what I'm going to do is remove this material altogether. There's nothing strong on that, and nothing that I'm too keen on. And also I'm going to remove this one, because again, there's no material on that I really think is strong enough. So altogether remove. Taking out the old cordon. Now that leaves me with these two and these two. These two are the most central. This one is really no good for a cane. It didn't lignify properly, and it's just pretty much useless as a cane. So what I'm going to do, trim that bit of waste off, and I'm going to leave this one as a replacement spur. So cutting through the third bud and leaving 2 active buds underneath as replacement canes for next season. Going to remove this material also, because it's starting to drift off too much to the side. For these bigger cuts, you may need a saw or something so you don't injure your wrist. I've been doing it for a little while now, so my wrists are more used to it. The key is to keep your wrists and things warm, especially in winter, to avoid RSI or any of those injuries that come along with excessive use of your wrists and hands. Carpal tunnel is another one that's quite common during pruning season. So here we're left with 2 replacement canes and a replacement spur. Now I'm going to clean off the waste material on these 2 canes as I count the buds. So we don't count the very base one, the basal bud, we don't count that at all. Start from the next one up. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now on the video previously, I cut through the 11th bud to leave 10 active ones. I may as well go ahead and do that with this one too. So I've cut straight through that bud to create a seal there, and I've cleaned up this cane as I've gone. And now there's 10 active buds on that, and that hopefully will produce 10 new shoots next year. And again, same with this one, don't count the base bud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, cut through number 11. And now I've left 10 active buds on those canes. So remove the waste. Everything that you see above in terms of growth, bunches, canes, all that, all comes from the soil initially. We take away every season, we'll remove the fruit, and it goes off with processing to wine. With these, instead of taking them away and burning them, if you can, mulch them back into the ground where they've initially developed from. So everything there is carbon along with the nutrition from the soil that we've delivered, and every year you're taking some of that away. So where you can, it's best to replace whatever nutrition you can. And these will certainly, once they've been mulched, release some of that nitrogen back into the ground. They'll sort of compost. They compost a lot easier once they're broken up, and that'll feed back into the soil and create more nutrition for the vines to feed from, as well as adding a little bit of organic matter back to the soil also. Just promote that soil structure and the microbial health underneath the soil also. We'll remove this. Like I said, there was 4 canes on this and not 2. And now, ordinary practice would be to leave these guys like this until the tying down team comes through, and they'll attach these guys to the wire. But for demonstration purposes, I will wrap these guys on and fix them to the wire. So what you want to do is not create a really sharp bend, because when you do create a really sharp bend to wrap them on, they often break. Especially because these areas in here are often in contact with the wire and a little bit damaged, so they are susceptible to breakage at this point. So I tend to do a gentle lean and then begin to wrap on once they've come down to wire level. So you can apply more wraps this way. That's one full one, and we'll go 2 where possible. Bring it back and leave it attached to the wire. And in this particular scenario, I'm going to use a cable tie to attach it to the wire. We've got other equipment like a Liga Power tie down gun. There's a video further back on how to use that particular device. But here I'm attaching with a cable tie, and I'll do the same over this side also. So gentle lean, 2 full wraps, and attach it to the wire with a cable tie. And I've attached it here on this end internode to avoid strangulation. If I attach it further back and wrap it over here, there's the potential that it could strangle this bud and reduce the amount of nutrition that's able to flow to this bud. I don't really believe that that's true, but if these were to be spur pruned next year and this cordon was to increase in girth, which they do once they've been spur pruned for a number of years, then it would certainly cause some strangulation at the end. So just in case we do end up spur pruning this sometime in the future, I'll attach it at the very end internode with no strangulation is going to occur. Yeah, and a close-up of why we cut through the bud. And why we cut through the bud as opposed to cutting somewhere at random on the material. When we cut at random here, you can see that in here any insect or disease is able to penetrate into this area quite easily. But if we cut through the bud, there's a natural sort of seal that's created inside. I'll scrape away that little bit there. You can see there's a seal here. If we do a cross section of the bud, we split him up the middle, you can see the seal here, and that penetrates all the way through onto the other side as well. And when you cut through the bud, you leave that seal intact most of the time. It'll offer more resistance of pest and disease penetrating into the end internode. So we cut through the bud as a rule, just to create that seal, preventing pest and disease from entering down into the bud. I hope you enjoyed this content, guys. I really appreciate the support. If you did enjoy and you're not subscribed yet, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps me out, and I'll catch you all on the next video.